Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hyrule Chronicles, the Legend of Zelda D&D campaign, episode number 32. I am the GM ArticulateT, and with me today I have playing Renji, heir of Nihilus, the Netherlad.
Hello, and welcome.
I have playing Hikan Sio, Alvarance.
Hello.
I have playing Ziden Shari, Robopirate.
Hello.
And playing Max, I have Keastreth.
Hi.
Okay, so before we get into the recap, just wanted to do a couple of quick updates. Thank you for people's patience in waiting for the episode. I have returned from Canada. I will be likely. I think I have another holiday plan, but it might fall within the week that we don't record anyway, so we should be fine.
Speaking of Canada Day.
Oh yeah, it is Canada Day. Happy Canada Day for folks who are in the Canadas celebrating Canada.
Huzzah.
Day. Yes. Hope you're having a wonderful time. In addition, I will be looking into the possibility of moving our usual audio stuff from SoundCloud to Podbean, so that we can have like a proper podcast like subscription thing that people can like download the thing on iTunes and stuff like that. So I'll look into the logistics like that, and I will be doing like text updates to make sure people are aware, just in case someone like goes to the SoundCloud page and find where's all the audio gone. But yeah. But in any case, I suppose it is time to recap.
Oh boy. Okay. Alright. So the party, consisting of two elves that slept in the same area, or two Sheikah rather, that slept in the same area, with a heavily armored Gerudo woman that somehow magically snuck out without them noticing because they slept way less than she did. She did turn in early, to be perfectly fair, but she still snuck out, and we kind of started off the session with that, and we had to go find her. Thanks to Ziden's quick magical things and Hikan's insistence on finding said paladin friend. They went over to the south, and everyone kind of had a heartfelt bit, and Ziden had the longest face of them all, mostly because he was a horse. And after everyone said their goodbyes, and Hikan made sure that Tyrina had plenty to eat on her way back to the desert, Hikan was like, well, crap, I did all of this the night before for nothing, so let's go ahead and put all this back. And went over to the Temple of Etheria, where he made the connection that, oh, crap, hey, that's the same symbol that was on the guards in the vision. So let's go ask these guys. And then we proceeded to give an entire church a crisis of faith.
Yeah.
And then after that, we decided that, well, crap, we probably should have talked to the big boss about the entire mission before giving the church the crisis of faith. So let's go do that while we wait to go pick up our fancy new duds and get ready for the gala. And then we did that, and by we, I mean Hikan sat there and babbled at a Lord of the Sheikah for who knows how long, trying to explain everything and embarrassing his friend in the process. And then, yeah, everyone kind of got into their new digs, which tended to work out for everybody, and we went to the gala, and Renji proceeded to leave his friends who have no idea what the hell this kind of situation's like, because all of them lived in the wilderness for who knows how long.
I can dance if I want to. I can leave my friends behind.
I've been in this ball for more than like a while now, and I still don't know what it is.
It's free food.
First of all, it doesn't even resemble a ball.
So Renji decided to schmooze an older woman, I believe. And
Well, she's in her 20s, so yes.
technically. And Hikan and the rest of them tried some wine and then talked to Mr. Larson Graves. And then they called for food, and everyone was panicking because, well, except for Ziden. Ziden's normally quiet.
Ziden found his nameplate and sat down.
Okay. So.
But yeah, that's about it.
Okay. So, Yeah, as mentioned, you have we rejoin the session. The bell a bell has just been rung, and as everybody fell quiet, there was a someone at the top of the stairs who said, "Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to take your seats, we will be beginning dinner shortly." And there's a slight bit of commotion as everybody then immediately turns to try and find their spots to sit down in. And after a brief pause, sharp and flat, the royal composers begin the music once again, which will eventually begin playing on. There we go. Okay. So, as the nobility begin to maneuver their way through the different areas or amongst each other, you find they immediately maneuver to the tables, which are kind of like these two tables, which kind of extend the length of the room, that are on either side of the room. People have moved over, and they're checking these little nameplate cards that are in front of these plates, and eventually people find the one that they should have found and sit down and just kind of politely wait and have idle chatter amongst themselves. Do you wait for everybody to sit down, or do you just immediately go to try and find your nameplate card?
I would personally just carefully walk around, not like hurry in any sense, but definitely try and see like if I recognize any names.
Okay.
That's gonna follow Ziden.
Now, as we talked about off recording there real quick, since it is fancier script, I would like to make a performance check while I wait for everyone else to get into their thing or into their seats to see what mine is, to see which one mine is.
Okay.
Because as we've talked about it, Hikan's not exactly the smartest, so he has a hard time reading fancy script.
Okay. Make that performance check.
A 19.
19. You do fairly well. You go through the cards. You politely pick them up, examine them, and you put them back down. They are indeed in the fancy cursive script that is, like, it's remarkably difficult to read it at a first glance. You have to kind of discern what letters are individually as you go through. But you do eventually find your nameplate card, and it is all sitting on one side of the table, like directly in the middle of this table, backs against the wall, and you're all kind of sitting politely in a line. Even Renji, one would assume that Renji would have been situated more closely to his father, but then Renji, you know that a lot of the Sheikah bodyguards, when they're on duty, don't typically have a place at the table, much in the same way that they are constantly unseen while in the while there is a actual event in progress.
Right. So would my father not have a seat at the moment?
No, he wouldn't. You would know that he's probably out of sight, keeping an eye on Sophitia.
Right.
Usually the Sheikah bodyguards eat in their own time, either before or after the event, while they're doing their duty. A lot of the people who work at the castle do that same thing. The guards will have their own allotted time where they kind of exchange shifts with another group of guards, and then they sit down in the mess hall and eat, and typically are granted like a pitcher or two of the castle's finest wine as a well done, you've protected the party, have a party yourselves. A lot of the servants are more or less in the same fashion, and so you know that the Sheikah typically will have their own little pseudo ceremony, either before or after, where they eat and just relax briefly.
Good. Well, I will. If I find my seat, I will join my fellow party members.
Okay, so I'm gonna quickly roll something rather secretly. There's 4 of you here, and I'm gonna go down the line. So I'm gonna see who is on each end. Renji, you are 1. Hikan, you are 2. Ziden, you are 3. Max, you are 4. So on the very left side, where you'll be seated next to a stranger, 4. Max, you are seated on one end, and on the other end,
Damn it! I had all my fingers crossed.
1. Renji, you are also seated next to a potential stranger.
Okay.
Meaning that Ziden and Hikan, you are flanked by people that you know.
Advantage! I mean, what?
That being said, if my card is the card that's next to Max, given the fact that I know that, at least by now, I'm pretty certain I have an idea that Max has social anxiety, I will trade seats with Ziden, so Ziden's closer to Max.
Okay. That's
No,
it.
I'm. If I remember it, Max is on the end, but I'm next to him.
Oh.
In either case, that seems perfectly reasonable. It's not like it's excruciating alphabetical order, and you weren't given like a thing to say, do you have allergies, yes or no, sort of thing before you got here.
We were literally told about it as we were coming in and said we had to go there.
Yeah.
Will you have the chicken or the fish?
Okay. So, as you situate yourselves as a polite chatter, a conversation, Max, as you are sitting down and are kind of just idly looking around the room, a relatively large, imposing figure takes a seat next to you, and there is a big clank clank as this
It's Eisenführer.
Eisenführer is not here.
I know. I made the joke last time.
Oh God!
I'd rather him
I
than
repeat
I'd rather sit by Eisenführer than Lord Dickface. So you know.
Yeah,
That's
that's
fair.
This person's wearing metal, it's definitely not Lord Dickface.
Yeah. So you look over and you see this kind of purple painted plate mail and a gloriously long white beard and long white hair on this old stern looking face. And on the chest plate of his armor is emblazoned this iconography of let's see, where is it? You see a blazon, like in a diamond shape, you have a pair of gears that are kind of interlocked. And he kind of, like, he sits down, he politely nods to you, but doesn't say anything. He does the same for the person sitting on his other side, and he just kind of sits and quietly waits and looms, casting a shadow as the torch that is a torch is conveniently behind him, so that a shadow falls upon you, Max. Renji would
I'm
recognize.
just gonna be glad that this guy isn't chatty.
Yeah. Renji, you would recognize this individual as Lord Kazundas, the noble who is charged with the religious aspects of Hylian society. He is a high paladin of Chronica. As such, he never takes off his armor, and he's very, very serious. And you don't think you've ever seen him smile, much to the chagrin of many of the other individuals within the court of Hyrule.
You mean he wears his armor forever?
Kinda. You've never seen him take it off.
Is it a Chronica condition?
I mean, it's a guy who doesn't talk and never smiles. He's like my best friend already.
I mean, that's fair.
I was gonna say, you do realize I haven't rolled to see who sits next to you, Renji. I could make it Rickshaw. I could fudge the roll and make it Rickshaw.
Does Rickshaw want that?
I don't think he does,
Sorry.
but he might have his hand tied by the bureaucracy of nameplates at a dinner.
My one weakness.
I think he's paid a lot of money to not be embarrassed tonight.
He probably wasn't expecting any of you to turn up.
Turn off for what?
No.
I'm
Old
sorry, I don't know
memes.
what's gotten into me.
Anyway.
I can see people in chat demanding pun damage.
Oh god, pun damage. You know what? It's been a while. Let us roll some pun damage for the sake of it.
Yay!
Roll. Let's see. Let's do. It's not even typing in the thing. There we go. 1,039 pun damage.
I am dead.
You're dead, and so are the next like
And then
100 or so
a
characters.
servant comes past and brushes up the dust that was once Renji.
Yeah.
I mean, I better make up a new character now. Well,
Anyway, so by the rules of random die roll. Okay, so Renji, as you kind of sit down, you look around, you give a polite nod to some of the other nobles who sit down opposite you, as per noble etiquette demands. A frail-looking figure sits down right next to you and puts down and says, I've been waiting for this all night. It's always the best food at the castle. And you turn and you see this much older individual hunched over. He's got like a wispy beard and a balding head that seems like there would be hair like around the back of it, but he seems to have shaved it there. And he's got these spectacles on, and he kind of like his hands shake slightly. You recognize this as Lord Dr. Crane, who is effectively chief scientist and engineer of the court of Hyrule.
have I been in contact with him before?
You've met him a couple of times. He's very enthusiastic about everything he talks about, including things that he usually doesn't like talking about.
Okay, Lord Dr. Crane?
And, you must, yes, Master Vox. It's very nice to see you again. I don't see you very often.
I've been away from the castle for quite a while, but it is always good to be in the castle despite events.
Oh yes, absolutely. Of course. You have my commiserations. Of course, I do. I am aware that you and your companions used to work for Lord Simeon. He was a fine fellow. Yes. I'm sorry that you had to endure such a thing. He was a very sharp mind, very curious and inquisitive, and I liked that about him. Are you much the same way?
I wouldn't say I share the specifics of his interests, but I did appreciate his inquisitive mind.
Oh yes. It's always nice.
Did he study under you, Lord Dr. Crane?
For a brief time, teaching him the basics of physics and the way the world works. And you know, it's always nice to know the various basic things of how things work, because then you'll be able to adapt more freely. You see, and he goes on into this long rambling thing.
Yes.
About.
I believe Renji is well, adept at social encounters enough to feign interest.
Yes. Roll a deception check, though the DC on it will be fairly low, just for the sake of it.
Sure. That is an 18, or had I
27.
It's a crit. It's a crit.
Because
Remember?
you're Eagle Splendor.
Oh yes, it is a crit. It is 27.
Yeah. Well,
Although now you've perfectly feigned interest in this subject.
yeah.
Well, no, actually, like Renji would just ask like these leading questions to keep him talking about like stuff, like how magic interacts with physics and how he's seen like his friend Sho Daius use magic and how that interacted. And he would probably like mention a few magical the things that he's seen in the Artemark dungeon, the constructs, that sort of thing.
Yeah. That seems perfectly reasonable. And he does kind of like when you mention like the constructs that have occurred in like Artemark and everything, all these things that were more inclined towards like hard science and engineering as opposed to magical construction. He seems very enthused by that whole notion that there are automatons and mechanical traps and everything that people still use as opposed to having to rely on magic. Like he's thrilled by the notion, even though, as you describe, it's a series of dreadful death traps in a place that was made by several mad people over several generations. So he kind of misses the point, but at the very least, he seems enthralled. But yeah. And as he kind of draws you into conversation, and the rest of you sort of kind of busy yourselves, either talking amongst yourselves or just kind of analysing the rest of the room, you do a couple of you do catch the eye, or you do catch sight of Rickshaw, who's like a few table lengths down. He's talking loudly and boisterously. Much to the chagrin of the people surrounding him, who now cannot get away because they won't be able to eat food. So they kind of buckle down and prepare for that sort of thing. In the meantime, after a brief period of time, a door opens and a line of servants comes in, each with these silver trays with the metallic covers on them, and they proceed through people and lean politely between each of you as they lay down these trays of food. And when they cast a brief glance at everyone around to see when everyone has kind of put their placing down. And then in a practice unified notion, take the cover and remove it. And there is a waft of this steam that rises from the cooked food, and you see before you a variety of fine meats and vegetables. You see what appear to be honey roast parsnips and vegetables, grilled asparagus and salad with a sweet dressing, flame roasted boar, baked key, like the Zelda birds that look like crows but are a bit bigger, boiled Sarkosian crab, and aged beef of the finest Lon cows, and also, of course, soft sweetbread and a couple of bowls of broths and everything. You look before you on your placemats, you have like a plethora of forks and knives and spoons, all of which are arranged in a very specific fashion, and there's just this intoxicating smell that rises, and as the food is revealed, the servants take a bow, and then they leave with the food covers that they previously had, and that is a universal signal for everybody to just dig in. And you see the nobles around you kind of in a very practiced manner just take pieces of food each at a time and place it on their plates as they are having these polite conversations, with the exception of Dr. Crane, who kind of just like very shakily but very eagerly just takes things with, like, he picks up the nearest fork, the biggest one that he has next to his thing, and just kind of stabs it into food and puts it on his plate, and is just like he almost completely breaks away from the rambling monologue that he was perceptively enthralling you with, Renji, as he focuses more on the food that he's been anticipating the whole evening.
The moment he's distracted, I lean in over Ziden, because I assume he's next to me with like Hikan and Max to the other side.
I specifically made it. Yeah, I specifically made it so that way Max is next to Ziden.
Yes.
So I would be next to you.
And it's like don't worry if this is a thing, but outward cutlery in, go outside, from outside to the inside. You'll be fine.
Max is just leaning back, completely paralyzed with indecision right now.
So
it's the leftmost knife and the leftmost.
He's not
fork,
looking at the cutlery.
So, like, as Renji leans over to tell us this, Hikan's like halfway over to just pulling the entire plate towards him. He goes,
okay.
Ziden's just gonna look around and see if there's any
puts his hands up and it's like, oh, right.
So based, relative to us four, Lord Rickshaw is where again?
He is 5
Further
places...
down the table.
Yeah, he's further down the table, closest more to you, Renji, than any of the others, but he's still kind of like... He's like at least 7 people away.
Okay. I look over at Ziden and I'm saying, you know Lord Rickshaw
Mm-hmm.
and how he's been abrasive in our interactions?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to make him smell like a fart.
I agree.
Fair enough.
Wait.
He's
We're
such
trying
a
to
good
scare Lord
influence,
Rickshaw.
Dad.
No, not scare. Just
Because, and Hikan turns into the hood of his cloak of protection and pulls out Fred the Morth.
oh no! Why did you bring? No! Put that back where you found it, or so help me.
I can't go back to Audemars right now.
No, I mean in your cloak. That
Put
might.
Fred back away.
Yeah, you need to protect. You need to protect him.
Fred kind
Who
of
knows what
just...
people might do?
Fred blinks, winks at you. It's hard to tell. He's got the one eye, but it's just...
I pick up some of the greens and then just like put it next to him. I don't know how he eats.
He opens his eye. Like with somatic component under the table, I let I make an instantaneous, harmless sensory effect, such as a shower of spark, a puff of wind, a fart, or faint musical notes, or an odd odor. That's the proper description.
Yeah.
And with Lord Dr. Crane distracted, I just I use the verbal components and create an odd odor around Lord Rickshaw.
Okay. Jesus Christ. So as you focus in on his conversation, as you cast this spell, it doesn't you cast it. You don't think it takes immediately. There's just because Rickshaw kind of continues on, and he's like, well, yes, you see, I feel like maybe in light of certain circumstances, perhaps I should take more of an interest in the royal family and the young ones and. And then as he kind of like tries to comprehend the smell, everyone else around him who are not within in his immediate spot know the direction it comes from, and kind of just a look of distaste, the look of discomfort from the actual conversation is exchanged with one of distaste, and just kind of just like they have an immediate kind of change of opinion. It's gone from like, why won't this man shut up, to, oh god, why does this man smell so bad? He's nobility, he should know better. And just kind of like all collectively turn to the person on their opposite sides and just kind of like lean an elbow on the table, which is again not proper, but they have to do so in order to try and kind of like subtly place a hand on their chin or something so that they can occasionally just kind of pinch their nose or something along those lines. And Rickshaw is just dreadfully confused and embarrassed. You see the color of his face change from the
I actually try not to look at him.
Yeah.
Like I'm engaged with Lord Dr. Crane. Does he like gorge himself on the food, or is it more that he's like focused on it, but he does continue talking somewhat in between bites?
He doesn't eat elegantly. He basically takes all the sweetest meats and some of the honey roast sort of vegetables and stuff, and he's talking to you while still cramming food into his mouth. So he does talk with his mouth full, but he's enraptured with his two favorite things, which is going on about something and eating. And he's kind of trying to mesh the two together. So yeah, he does talk to you, but his eyes and his actions are focused more on the food in his plate.
Well, in that case, I continue to engage him in conversation as I maintain concentration on the odd odor. Actually, no, it's not concentration at all, I see. It's just duration, 1 hour.
Yeah.
I can stop it, but
Okay.
do I want to?
It's entirely up to you.
You could leave it like that for an hour.
Hikan is deliberately making slow motions as to not grab all of the food on the table at this point, because Renji probably gave him the stink eye.
No. I gave Lord Rickshaw the stink eye.
Gave him the stink at least. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Zach still hasn't moved.
Oh. But yeah, eventually, I'm just gonna roll the thing. Okay, so eventually, after a while, Rickshaw does he puts his cutlery down and politely excuses himself from the table as he gets up to leave, possibly to find the nearest washroom and figure out what the hell's smelling so bad. And as he does leave, the remaining members of the court who are sitting around him just kind of heave a colossal sigh of relief, and then return to try and strike up a more pleasant conversation between all of them who were subject to Rickshaw's bellowing, for lack of a better term. What is remind me? What is everybody's passive perception?
Mine's 18.
18.
Mine is also 18.
15.
Okay.
We're a
16.
perceptive bunch.
So yeah, everyone manages to cast a glance at this, or they can do if they wish to, but on the opposite side of the room, on the other table, you manage to, at the corner of your eye, you see Lady Risha's servant. He wanders over and leans down and whispers something next to her, at which point, after he stands straight, she nods to the people around her, stands up remarkably quickly, and then briskly walks out of the hall with her servant in tow. Yeah. Do that.
And Lady Risha was sitting close by whom?
She was on the other table. So you're on one, opposite side of the room is another table that kind of runs the length of the room, and she was on that one. And you managed to catch a glimpse of Lady Risha leaving her place and heading out of the room.
So, Hikan, because Risha's one of the few people that Hikan would actually recognize, and last session was definitely keeping an eye on her to see if a conversation or something would open up, because I have in my notes make Lady Risha smile. Does remember that she kept looking at the window and looking around kind of thing, so may I roll an insight on why that seemed kind of quick and sudden?
Sure.
To see if it's suspicious or something. It's 11.
11. It's hard to tell. From what you could discern that maybe she was waiting for something specific to either arrive, or for or waiting for a person, or just for a time of day. It definitely seems like a time-sensitive thing. You don't remember seeing anybody approach the servant, or the servant leaving in order to get further information before approaching Risha to cause her to leave in the first place. But as far as you're aware, she just might be anticipating something else and has decided to take her leave, at least for the moment.
How nosy is Hikan?
Very.
Okay,
Hikan.
that settled it. Hikan's going to politely use himself and then go sneak after Lady Risha.
Okay. Fair enough. You briefly disappear in order to sneak after Lady Risha. Roll me a stealth check.
Here we go. 17.
Okay. So you leave the room. You follow Lady Risha. She makes her way, or seemingly makes her way through the hallways out to outside through like the main entrance to the castle itself, and as you kind of like maneuver between various different points, you can see that the evening is beginning to set in as you properly look outside. The last glimpses of sunlight disappear behind the horizon, and the sky is barely retained any of that orange color, while transposing to darkness and black, and it's a nice clear night and you can see the stars, but Lady Risha herself seems to be very briskly walking down the path, not really paying any mind to any of the servants or guards that are around her. She just kind of gives a wave to anybody who tries to catch her attention, and continues onward, and her servant is not far behind her.
Okay. Hikan, he's been in here a couple of times. Will throw up the hood on his cloak of protection.
Mm-hmm.
And just you keep a. I want to use the word healthy distance behind Risha, but is keeping an eye on her, because yeah, it's just like, why you keep looking around at things and then suddenly leave right when dinner's about to be served, or is served. So
Okay.
I will be following Lady Risha.
Okay, make another stealth check.
Okay, come on. Natural
Nice.
20.
Natural 20. Yeah, you follow Lady Risha. It'll take a fair while, considering the distance, but you follow her as she maneuvers her way down the path out towards the northern area of Castle Town. As she gets to the gate, a couple of the guards recognize her and immediately raise the portcullis, and she just continues to stomp out into the street at night. Now, you are undetected as it stands. The core thing to remember is, though, that there might be a chance that you might not get back into the castle tonight if you continue to follow Lady Risha back into Hyrule Castle Town. Do you wish to continue?
Let me take a look at my equipment here. I don't have rope or anything like that. And I'm not at the level where I can just run up walls.
Like, you could possibly talk your way back in and say, I'm one of Renji's friends and I left momentarily, but there's a possibility that might not happen.
But it's true.
It's true.
You know, there's a lot of the things that are going on, and yeah. Hikan's not the smartest, but he knows it's bigger than it seems. Hikan's going to continue to follow Lady Risha.
Okay, and you continue to follow Lady Risha into Hyrule Castle Town once again. And as that happens, back at the banquet, there is another little ding-ding-ding-ding-ding-ding-ding from a bell, and the music comes to a stop. Everybody ceases their conversation inside the little banquet hall thing, and they turn to the source of the bell, and it's another servant who's standing in front of the royal family's table, and he kind of lowers the bell and puts his hands behind his back and says, "My ladies and gentlemen, please hold your silence, as His Majesty would like to say a few words." And he maneuvers out of the way, and there is despite the request to hold their silence, there is a polite sort of applause from many of the individuals in the room, as King Alexander Gregory Hyrule places his hands on the table before him and slowly stands up. And he casts a tired glance around the room, and you can see that despite that, he offers something of a smile, and he says, "My dear friends, thank you for coming tonight. I am aware that for many of you it was short notice. However, the loss of a dear friend is never to be expected. I have known Lord Simeon comparatively, very briefly. And from my own understanding of the man and his values and the rest of his family, I can say that he was one of the best men that I have had the pleasure to encounter. He was someone who was earnest in his values of wanting to utilize his skills and leadership to better benefit our kingdom and the world. He saw value in many individuals. He saw value in many things. One thing I will say, that he wasn't fully aware of the value of a coin, but some would say that is a good thing considering what he did with it. And there's a couple of people in the room go, "Hear, hear," and since those of you who remain are still fairly perceptive, you do hear like a light murmur of people who have their differing opinions on the man. And he said, and the king continues. He says, Lord Simeon is a fine example of what can be done by utilizing lessons from the past and looking to the future. To understand that there are things that we as people have held value to only to our detriment, and things that we could hold value to for our benefit. My father, the previous king, he had instilled in me lessons to lead this kingdom by, and a lot of it was to throw away our ties with the outside world. And for a while, I will admit my weakness in agreeing with the man. But Simeon was one of the few who had always reminded me that there is value in everyone and everyone's history. And to put value in them, they will put value in us. And so tonight I would like to raise one final glass to Lord Simeon, his family, and the values that he instilled in this great kingdom. To Simeon, and there is a bunch of the people around take up their goblets or wine glasses, and they raise as well, and they all repeat, to Simeon. Do you guys do the same?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Max finally is pulled out of whatever reverie he was in and just joins in.
Okay. And then the king nods and smiles and says, "Again, I thank you for attending this. To celebrate the life of a man who meant a lot to so many people, and to celebrate the lessons that he taught us all. So, as is tradition, in order to take joy in the accomplishments of those who have passed, rather than to wallow in the despair of their passing, after dinner has been concluded, there shall be a dance, as always. Now, please, eat, talk, be merry, and enjoy the rest of the evening." And he takes another seat. There is another light, polite applause, and then the music starts up again, and everyone returns to eating and things. And there's like a light murmur between everybody about their conversations, about their opinions on Lord Simeon and their memories of the man and everything like that. Kazundas, who still remains there, has put down his stein and just continues eating silently next to you, Max. Meanwhile, Lord Dr. Crane on the opposite side takes the briefest of moments to kind of place his goblet down, his shaking hand continuing to kind of slosh around the mixture of wine within it before he settles it down. Heaves a sigh, and then turns to you, Renji, with a smile, and begins to go on a long, long story about the one time that Lord Simeon had provided him with notes dug up from an old outpost in the field from one of his researchers, which contained schematics for a big thing that he was very excited to talk about, and they spent hours, if not days, poring over the notes and understanding everything about it. He, like, as he begins to start telling the story, he once again continues to dig back into the food, and it's muffled with the amount of food that's in his mouth. He's like, yes, you see, the thing would have little rotors and everything. It would fly, and we had actually determined that if we could make it bigger and apply more thrust, we could transport people and goods by the air. And nothing had been seen about that since the loft wings. And we just go on in this same story for quite a while, for as long as your attention is held.
Do I need to make a concentration check for that?
Only if you wish to.
Sure, it's a constitution check. It's a 9.
It's a 9. It's hard to kind of get a full story going when you've got a mouthful of food, and like you find your attention wandering slightly, and occasionally Lord Dr. Crane like pats you lightly on the shoulder and says, "Oh no. So let me repeat again this bit." And like he's aware that you're kind of like drifting off slightly, but instead of
no, I pressed A too quickly. And now he's repeating himself.
Would you like to hear what I've said again?
Yes, no, shit!
Or you take the owl route and just add several yes no's to it. Would you like to not hear the thing that I just did not say?
Oh dear. So, Ziden and Max, what are you up to briefly in this little thing after the speech held by the king as you continue with the food? Has Max overcome his indecision?
Max kind of lowers the goblet he's holding up way after everyone else does because it's a bit behind, sniffs at it, realizes it's not water, puts it down, and then just leans back in his chair, just continuing to stare at stuff that he doesn't know what to do.
Oh. What of you, Ziden?
Ziden will continue to eat.
Ah, it's
People can't try and put him into conversation if he's eating.
that's true. So as you like,
I
as
like
you...
that you're completely ignoring me. This is great.
This is about our normal relationship, isn't it?
Oh. So as you kind of bite into the food, like the actual vegetables themselves have been cooked to perfection. They're very soft and very sweet as you bite into them. As you take a hunk of flame roasted boar, it kind of has that sort of very spit roast hog sort of texture to it. So when you bite into it, there's a nice, like, it's soft enough where you can bite into it without providing too much strain on your jaw, but it's just tough enough to really kind of get that nice big chunk of food and like just kind of very enjoyable just to kind of gnaw on. And it does, and the flame roasted boar does come with like crackling and stuff if any of you are interested in anything like that. You kind of continue to eat. That, like the other nobles who don't know you are more inclined to talk with the individuals they do know. As said before, Kazundas is more or less just focused entirely on his own thing. Rickshaw hasn't come back yet. It's possible that he still has no idea what's causing him to smell so badly, and is just more or less is more or less kind of puzzled
as we go into like the more food, I do decide after like, I don't know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes to end the results.
Okay.
The effect.
Yeah. Okay. And you do so. Then we return back to Hikan. So, in fact, I'm probably...
Mission Impossible theme playing in the background.
Yeah. Mission Impossible theme. So we're...
No, it's not that. It's Khan's just sitting there quietly doing the thing that Kronk does when he's sneaking around members' new groove.
So you continue onwards, following Lady Risha as she maneuvers through the night or the evening streets of the noble district. She doesn't make any stops. She doesn't deviate. Essentially, all that happens is she finds a way back to her own estate, which is what I'll do is actually I'll pull you guys onto the map so you can see the star that I have just initiated there, and also maneuver things up as well. So it's near the north gate, Lady Risha's estate, and it's much like Rickshaw's and Simeon's. It is very much a uniform building. It seems that it's kind of like there was a very specific floor plan that was decided on when most of the nobles had decided to, the system of government had effectively fully taken place, and all the nobles had to stay within the city. But she heads inside, and the guards next to her door kind of stand to attention, as they usually do. She heads in. As the servant enters, the door is closed behind her, and you are kind of left within the nobles district outside this building.
Okay, so first question, as she's walking inside, is there like lights on upstairs or something like that?
No, like there are lights on downstairs, like candlelight, but there's not any lights on upstairs.
Okay. Hikan's kind of gonna walk around the house for a little bit. How tall is the fence?
The fence is roughly 7 feet tall.
Okay. So what Hikan does is he gets a little bit further away from the things, just kind of like, oh no, I'm just walking past. I'm going towards like not Lady Risha's house anywhere but Lady Risha's house, and then just kind of takes a little bit of like a couple of quick steps before hopping up and then using his arms to push him over the top of the fence.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually significantly easy enough. You pull yourself up and descend over to the other side. Sorry, I was just changing the bit rate on the stream to see if it can, because we've lost a lot of frames. So I've changed it briefly to see if it works. Doesn't seem to have worked, but we'll continue on. You descend onto the other side. It's a very nice garden. Then again, it's much like Simeon's garden was, so it's much the same as the rest of the building, you theorize. If you remember Simeon's layout of like his home appropriately, you know where the dining room is, you know where the kitchen is, and you know where like the library study rooms are on the ground floor. Though the upper floor is mainly bedrooms and like a washroom, so you know where the washroom is on the upper floor, but you don't know where, like, which bedroom Lady Risha has claimed as her bedroom. But as far as you can tell from this side, you do see the study lights are on.
Okay. And there's a window to the study, right?
Yeah, there is a ground floor window that's easily accessible.
Okay. Does it open?
You maneuver over, you test it. It appears to be locked from the inside.
I don't think throwing a bear trap's going to work, and I don't have anything flat, so should have taken the thing that I wanted to earlier. There's a Lady Risha and her servant in the study. Is there a bush nearby? Like, where
yes,
I can see everything?
There is a bush nearby.
Cool, because I've got Mask of the Wild, so
yeah.
I will stay near-ish the bush and try to see who all I can see inside.
Okay. So you stay nearest the bush. You look over, you see Lady Risha and her servant enter the study. The servant closes the door behind him. And Lady Risha seems to have a letter in her hand. It's a very thick letter as well. But she takes a seat at the desk. Her back is to you now. And you see her arms move, presumably as she opens the letter.
Is the servant facing me?
Yes, he's got his back to the opposite wall and is just kind of politely awaiting instruction.
Okay. Oh, I have something small and flat. I didn't think about it. Shit. Okay. How far away is Lady Risha from the window?
The window is roughly 2 feet away from... No. More than that. 5 feet away from the... So, Risha, then there's a gap of 5 feet, then the window.
Okay. So if I stand, since I'm like 6 feet and change tall, I'd be able to kind of perhaps see over her shoulder to try to take a glance at the letter.
It's quite possible.
All right.
I might require, like...
I would like to give that a try first.
Yeah. I would require possibly a stealth check, so I don't know if Mask of the Wild makes you, like, fully invisible while you're standing in a bush, but it's...
I think it's one of the things like stealthy, where it just, like, I'm able to hide in it opposed to, like, needing full cover or something like that. So.
Yeah. Attempt to hide even when you're only lightly obscured by foliage. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
A 24.
Okay.
Thank you, Ziden.
You're welcome.
I don't know why I'd be rolling for perception. They'd be using their passive perceptions in this one. And I don't think either of them have passive perception 24. So you kind of lean over and you see a lot more of this kind of very fancy cursive writing, and it goes on for pages as Risha kind of reads it. And she takes, like, unlike her previous actions where she's very deliberate and very quick when she does everything, Lady Risha is very slow while reading this one. She kind of reclines slightly in her chair. And it is like so it's basically a document, a hastily scrawled document in small cursive script that is about 5 feet away. I will need a perception check for you to see if you can glance any text from the letter itself.
Come on. Nah.
It's too far away, and it's that same cursive bullshit that was on the nameplate back in the actual back in the castle. It's difficult to say whether or not you can actually discern anything from it.
Which is perfectly fair. Okay. Okay. Is there a upstairs window above me?
Yes, there is.
Okay. No, Hikan's not. Okay. Are there rocks nearby?
Make a perception check.
All right, another perception check. I'm supposed to be good at these.
Yeah.
14?
With the 14, you see a couple of nearby pebbles that could potentially be used. They're about the size, like a couple of them the size of your palm, but nothing like a baseball-sized rock or anything like that.
So, we have the jade and the stone that were like worth so much. Are those about like fist size, like baseball size?
Let's see.
We got them a while back.
Yeah.
Forgot how much they were worth.
That's the wrong party. There we go. Treasure. No, I only use that holder in order to keep track of your magic items.
It's bigger than a pebble, because a pebble's not gonna break a window pane.
Yeah, that's Where did you get the jade, if you remember?
Got those in Automark, I think. There was enough for everybody to have a jade and a different stone that needed to be identified, and I did not go with the party to get it, if I remember. I think that was Ziden and Max that went and did that.
There we go. Okay, so it was... Yeah. Okay, so based on the worth of that, I'd say they're sizable. They're not baseball size, but they're a little bit smaller.
Okay. I'm gonna try to break the upstairs window pane really loudly by chucking a rock at it.
Okay,
The jade.
Make an attack roll.
All right. Like a regular attack roll, or like
yeah,
adding
so
proficiency, or just my dex?
add proficiency, because you're capable of throwing stuff. You are a monk.
Right. Okay. Cool. That's a 10.
That is a 10. So you kind of analyze the window that you can best utilize for it. You try and maneuver yourself in a way that, like, when you make the throw, none of your limbs can be seen in the window, and there is a as the jade hits the window, bounces off the pane, and there is a sizable crack from what you can see. It does make a fairly sizable, like a fairly noticeable noise, as you can glance and see Risha and the servant turn their attention away from each other and look in the general direction of where the window was. But the window itself hasn't broken.
Do they seem like they're like a bit panicked or going to go investigate?
There is a. They kind of make a. They nod, or they look to each other, and The servant nods and then quickly departs from the room. Risha herself stands from her desk, puts the letter down on the desk, and kind of slowly approaches the door, like contemplating as to whether or not to leave the room yet. But you hear on the opposite side of the building, the door open and the muffled conversation of, "You two, we appear to have some issues up in one of the buildings from the upstairs." And the guards nod, or there's a more muffled conversation in that regard. But you hear the clanking of metal footsteps from the opposite side of the building.
How bad do we want this letter? Okay. So the jade's back on the ground.
Yeah.
Is there another window on the first floor that's nearby?
Yeah, there's one to the kitchen. On like if you go around to another side of the building, there's one in the dining room.
Okay. I will go to one that's not right next to this room, but like a next room over.
Okay.
I think so, probably like the kitchen.
Yep.
And what I will do is actually, instead of using like a stone or something, I will wrap my hand in the cloak of protection and then just try to punch the window.
Okay. So make an attack roll.
That is a 15.
That's much better. So you wrap your hand in the cloak and you give it a couple of beats before there is a sudden crashing sound. You hear a yelp from inside, but as you kind of like retract your fist and pull it back, you will have moments to act.
I go straight back to the study, pulling out one of my darts. I'm assuming that it's more of a latch lock opposed to a key lock, but I could be wrong.
So make a sleight of hand.
Okay. Supposed to be okay at these two. 17.
Nice. So, acting quickly, you retract your fist and you stealthily trudge back to the window. You look inside, you see Risha has now departed from the room, and that is a motorbike going past because I've got to keep the window open, otherwise I will melt in my room. But anyway, as you you use the dart, you very carefully, like almost working on adrenaline, but also kind of very calmly in a practiced manner, you pop the latch. Excuse me. And you don't sneeze, and you pull the window open and now have access to Lady Risha's study.
Okay. I'm just going to quickly look at the... you know what? I'm going to make an intelligence check first. Okay, I just grabbed the letter and then hop back out.
Okay, so you grab that and you hop back out. Do you close the window behind you?
Yes.
Okay, so you close the window, and I'm going to need one more stealth check to escape the estate.
Okay, stealth. And that's a 9.
Okay. So let's see.
Almost.
Almost. Okay. All right. So as you hop out and you begin to make your way over to the fence in order to hop over it, you hear, like, as you put your hands on the fence to vault back over, you hear, "Oi, you there!" from behind you. And like glancing briefly, you've still got your hood up, so they don't recognize your face immediately, but you see like one of the guards like in the process of pushing himself out the broken window in the kitchen that you've broken in order to try and make pursuit.
Yeah, no, I don't stop. I just go ahead and leap off the thing. It's not the first time I've ran from people.
Okay.
Random guard chasing a monk. That will never win.
So you hop over the fence and you dash off, I'm gonna ask you to make one more stealth check with advantage because of your speed. It's dark, and they're not as agile as you in their armor. They'd have to take the long way around the back of the building in order to chase you.
Okay. That's an 18.
18. Okay, so you land on the other side. The guard runs over, stops short as he realizes that you've cleared the fence, and he begins barking orders at the other guard who's kind of looking out the window from the one that you've broken on the upper floor, and you just dash through the streets, you dart between buildings, and you disappear into the night with your letter.
Yay!
Yay!
I have no idea what this is, but the way she was acting, it might be important.
What the fuck just happened? Okay. So, before we return with the others, what is your plan of action now? Do you return to the castle with your letter, or do you try and find a place to, like a secretive place to read it, or what is the goal?
Okay, I'm gonna make another check real quick. Okay. I know that there are certain things that stand out, mostly because I asked for them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to head back to Uriel's to see if he's open, and I want to get the Sheikah symbol off of my cloak of protection.
Ah, very cool. Okay, so you head in the direction of Uriel's, and we will catch up with you later. In the meantime, back with team party fun times. It has now gotten to the point where everyone's kind of feels like they've had their fill of the buffet that is before them. People have started to slow down their eating and focus more on talking and drinking. And as that happens, the servants then begin to return, all in their practice order, all in their practice lines, with lids of food and lids for the food trays, and they lean in, and each of them quietly asks each of you, "Have you had your fill of the food this evening?"
Mask looks down at his obviously spotless plate. Looks back up.
Renji would probably not have eaten much either, having talked to Lord Dr. Crane for all this time.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna assume the servant eventually just takes the plate.
well, it's I'll roll an insight or something for the servant that's with you. That is that's fairly high. So for the servant that's with you, Renji, they kind of look down to the plate and look at her and says, "Well, if you're sure you have had your fill, and we'll take."
It's fine.
We'll move to take the plate from you and place their lid on the tray of food at your section of the table. Ziden, the question is asked of you: have you had your fill? And look down to your plate.
Nope, Ziden's still eating.
Ziden's still eating. So, very well, and they will keep the lid and it will stand back briefly. The one who's with you, Max, will look at the plate and then look to you and then look to the food and say, "Are you? I know it's not my place to ask, but are you feeling all right today, sir? Would you like a bit more time?"
I still don't know what this is.
Oh, well, and that's a natural one. Is oh, well, I tell you what, I will give you a few more minutes. You are free to take whatever food you would like to eat at all. It is not very good to go without eating, of course, and I will return here in say 10 minutes. I'm sure the tables will clear out a little bit when everybody begins to dance. And they take their lid and they take a couple steps back and kind of stand before the wall.
This just kind of slides down in his chair a bit.
bad. But yes.
Fine, I'll just go with that.
But the other nobles around you, they all in their own way say yes, they've had their fill, and they'll take the plates will be taken away, and like most of the food trays that are before people will be plated and removed, and a lot of those servants will move out of the way, leaving only like a handful of servants waiting for their respective individuals to finish their food or say that they've had enough.
Ziden's gonna look over at Max's lack of eating and say, just take what you want. We're never gonna see these people again in any meaningful circumstance.
I don't know what I want.
Then eat it all.
It's not mine, so I don't.
Do you want a good berry instead?
Max is like 5 seconds away from just crawling under the table.
I want to give Max a hug in this circumstance, but he doesn't like hugs, so I don't know what to do. But as you kind of contemplate this, there is another gesture as the king raises a hand, and there is a ting 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 ting, and the music continues playing, but everyone turns their attention, and the servant says, now as you have all had your fill, please feel free to take to the floor and dance. And with smiles and everything, the court of Hyrule, most of the court of Hyrule stands from the table, and they maneuver themselves into the middle of the room, where they find their respective dance partners and do a sort of very courtly sort of waltz, or foxtrot rather, as they dance around the room in their own way, just enjoying the music, which would be more varied than the Brandenburg Concerto that I've chosen to use, but it's the closest thing I could find at short notice. Leaving all of you guys at the table, unless you also decide to stand and find a partner to dance with or do other things.
Renji turns to Ziden and glances over at Max. Like, you two okay here?
I'm fine. I don't think Max is.
Right. Well, this is as good a time as any to step outside if you want to.
Max, shall we go?
I thought you'd never ask.
I'll stay here, keep up appearances.
Alright. In which case, on the way out, Ziden will re-enhance your charisma.
Thank you.
And then he will take Max away to somewhere less full of people.
Okay. Do you depart from the castle grounds entirely, or do you stay within the castle grounds and just find a quiet place in the castle to...
Yeah, let's find somewhere quite interesting in the castle.
Okay.
I hear there's a garden.
Let's go to the garden.
Very well. Okay. So
as people start to head out on the dance floor, I would like to try and find Ms. Summerborn.
Okay. So as everybody takes the dance floor, in regards to the people you were previously sitting next to / talking to / being talked at by,
yes, I do politely bid adieu to Lord Dr. Crane.
Oh, no, it was nice to see you, young Master Vox. It was very lovely to talk to you again. It's always nice to see a young, learned mind. Yes, I think I'm going to...
It was very pleasant to see you too, Dr. Crane.
I think I'm just
Lord
going
Dr.
to sit here and work off this heartburn As he kind of just like reclines slightly in his seat and just kind of like places the hand over his chest and just like leans an elbow on the table, clearly having eaten too much in the process of talking with his mouth full. Kazundas, as Max, as you leave, he offers a polite, noble nod. He too stands up, but he moves in the opposite direction you guys leave and just kind of finds a spot which is not being occupied. And as you depart, having either eaten your fill or not eaten at all, the servants that were behind you will take up your plates and cover the banquets in front of you and just kind of leave in their own way as well. Yes, but Renji, you go hunting for Miss Cassandra Summerborn. And
not hunting.
Lack of a better term.
I would like to see if she would be available for a dance.
Okay. So you maneuver through the crowd and you find Lady Summerborn, who's kind of situated herself. She's turned her chair around in order to view the rest of the dance floor. There are a few people around her who are just enjoying conversation. And she looks over and says, "It was a lovely meal. I do rather enjoy the Sarkosian crowd. Oh, Master Renji Vox, it is very nice to see you again. Did you enjoy the meal?"
I was, to be fair, rather indisposed by a lovely discussion I've had with Lord Dr. Crane on metaphysics, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, yes, indeed. It is very nice to see someone as young as you be so inquisitive and curious as to enjoy a conversation with Lord Dr. Crane. He can talk for the kingdom, can he not?
I'm going to insight that.
Okay.
That is a 4.
Yes. I'm sorry, not the microphone accent. But yes, she seems genuine in her surprise, in like her pleasant surprise that you would have such a in-depth conversation with Lord Crane. She basically just kind of like smiles to you. It's like, yes, it's not very many individuals out there who can stomach the man's capacity for speaking.
You are messing with me, aren't you?
Oh, no, of course not, Renji. Why, sorry, my apologies. Lord Vox, it's fine. And just fine. Very well.
I was actually wondering if you were not indisposed and would want to dance.
Oh my. Make a persuasion check with your advantage because you've got Eagle Splendor.
That's 24.
Okay. She mulls it over and says, "You know what? I don't get enough opportunities to dance nowadays. Why not?" And she offers you a hand, like a dainty hand, as one would.
And I take it, and as elegantly as I can with Eagle Splendor, accompany her to the dance floor.
Okay. And you head over to the dance floor. How often has Renji danced?
I wouldn't think he dances regularly, but I do think he's been instructed.
Yeah, so he's done his basic cotillion classes and stuff like that. So he's aware of like the formal dances that need to be done within a situation like this.
I think with just Sheikah upbringing in Castletown, it would definitely be a thing that, in order to like embrace life in the castle, one must know of life in the castle.
Okay. So I would like you to make a performance check. I believe that goes off of charisma, does it not?
It does indeed,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a 17.
Nice.
So he's not perfect at it.
He's not perfect at it, but at least he doesn't step on any toes, and he doesn't kind of bump into other people. You have through magical aid and your own scholarly understanding and practice, as you put it, of understanding life in the castle. You are aware, like you're aware of your surroundings. You know the basic steps to kind of move around the dance floor, and as you go, Miss Summerborn is like, "Oh well, you are quite a hand at the at such a dance. You must have quite remarkable teachers."
I've well, certainly, Lord Dr. Crane was one of them.
Well, I can't. Well, I suppose it's
Perhaps not in the dance department.
Well, no. Although it wouldn't surprise me, someone who has that much vigor within his old age has probably had much energy to spare in his youth. He must have been quite a dancer when he was young.
To be honest, that is not something I would have thought to entertain this night.
Well, in the meantime, it is good to dance, and to be fair, it is, as said, it is not often that such a situation arises. It is simply nice to.
You are right, yes.
It is simply nice to enjoy oneself.
Yes, I've been thinking that exact same thing tonight. It has been a while.
I merely regret that Lord Whitestone had not deemed it important to attend. Although, truth be told, he is experiencing his own problems, for lack of a better phrase. He needs all the time he has. But I am sure that one day he will return, and he will be more than willing to not only fulfill his duty, but dance with the rest of us.
I'm honestly glad that we're going to have this moment.
Absolutely. As you're dancing, your passive perception is 18, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you, through the corner of your eye, you note that the king and Sophitia excuse themselves from their table and disappear into a back room, or through a door that's behind their area of the room, as opposed to going out the main entrance themselves, leaving Marius and Rufus at the table. Marius.
And I see Impa leave as well.
No, Impa's Rufus's bodyguard, so she remains.
Oh wait, hold on. Right, yes. So I see Nihilus leaving.
You see Nihilus and Zelish leaving. At least they kind of apparate in a nearby shadow and accompany the two royals outside of the out the room.
Well, with that noted, seeing my father as well leaving, I decide, well, if they are leaving with my father and Zelish, then it's fine, and I turn back to focus on the dance.
Okay. As that is happening, meanwhile, outside the dancing area, we join Ziden and Max. Maneuvering through the hallways, past some of the guards, you find your way to a garden located more like as part of the central courtyard of the castle. It's a very nice place. There's flowers everywhere. It's kind of surrounded by a small moat of crystal clear running water. and there are small birds that some of the evening gardeners are tending to for seed, and they just it's very quiet and peaceful. Those are the only other people there are a couple of guards and the gardeners themselves, and they don't disturb you as you enter the garden.
Max just finds a place where the least amount of them are and just looks up at the sky and breathes for a bit. To stop panicking, basically.
Okay. As you look up to the sky, and now it is fully nighttime. You can see a wondrous display of stars in the night sky, kind of portraited by this border of the castle structure. It's a very beautiful sight. You can see the moon. It is not a full moon, but it kind of just hangs in the sky, and does not have an angry face, for those asking. And it seems fairly quiet for a spell, before eventually your passive insights are enough to understand this. A few minutes go by as you're kind of just very quietly, sort of calmly relaxing in the quiet, and eventually there's you hear the sound of footsteps going through a nearby corridor, and you can see on the edge of the courtyard, in this small section that goes from one door to another, you see the king and the princess moving through, being followed closely by Zelish and Nihilus as they move through the courtyard, or move past the courtyard and through to another door. Okay, so you guys leave them be?
No.
But I
Don't you want to investigate the mystery?
I don't think either of us are the type to invade other people's privacy, do things like breaking into their place or anything.
Plus, Max knows Mr. Kingman is important somehow, so he's gonna assume he can handle whatever it is.
Okay.
It's we won't ignore obvious things, and we'll help if approached, but...
Plus, your dad's there, he can do stuff.
Yes, that is true.
Okay.
He can do things.
So, as you kind of you see them go by, you let them be, and you kind of resume yourself in this area.
Should probably get back and pretend in the place where Renji was. I don't know what it's called.
We don't have to go back. He'll handle himself.
Out of character, I don't want to have the party be split too much.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a social event. It's okay. Meanwhile, back in the city.
Yeah.
Uriel's open.
Yep. You walk through the city districts, and you find Uriel's magnificent magical machinations, which the star seems to have disappeared on my map, which is about here. I think Roll20 is having a day where half the stars I put down seem to have just vanished for some reason.
It happens.
Yeah.
Such is life.
Such is life. But you head and you see that the light, the small window that is on this immaculate door, appears to have light coming through it. So you assume that Uriel's is open, and you kind of, you have the door before you. What do you do? Do you knock? Do you just turn the handle and open it, or?
I knock first, and then I turn the handle and try to open it.
Okay, so you give it a bit of a knock, and there's a brief muffled, "Come in," and there's a. As you open, you see the shimmering golden walls and floors of Uriel's magnificent magical machinations, and behind the desk, kind of with his fingers interlaced, and he smiles at you with his big bushy mustache and his curly blonde hair, is Uriel. And he looks at you, "Oh, well, if it isn't Hikan Sio, how might I be of service to you, son?"
Hello, Mr. Uriel. I went to the gala, and then when I was there, I realized my cloak doesn't match my outfit. So I was going to ask if you could change the cloak itself to a gray and the eye to this blue. And I hold up Simeon's sash color, or the sash with the symbol on it and the colors.
Okay. And he, like, turns out, "Well, I'm more than happy to do that, but won't you want to be changed back when you go back to your usual outfit, or are you making this a permanent attire change?"
I think a permanent attachment will work. I mean, Simeon was our friend, you know? And I think walking around with his colors would be a good way to honor him for a while.
That'll be fair. And he stands up and he says, "That'll be 10 gold pieces if possible."
Okay, 10 gold pieces. Sounds good. And I just give him 10 gold pieces.
Okay, so he takes the money, he pockets it, and with a wave of his hand and a snap of his fingers, the cloak kind of billows slightly as the colors change to the desired apparel that you've designated.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Uriel. I'm sorry to disturb you so late. You have a wonderful night.
Well, thank you very much, and you too. And he kind of scans you and says, "You been somewhere formal?"
I'm sorry?
You've been somewhere formal. I've never seen you in such a spiffing attire before."
Yeah, it was a more formal get-together thing. Renji would know the words for it better.
Oh, I'm sure he would. Well, if that's the case, I wish you a good night, sir.
Okay. You have a good night too, and I'll just turn around and leave and head back to the castle.
Okay. You return to the castle. Your walk through the streets is, it's still fairly quiet. As you pass by one corner, like one street corner, you do see two hurried guards just kind of wander around and begin like asking questions of people, but they seem far away enough that if you were to simply turn and move and keep moving towards your destination, you would be able to get there.
I'll go to the east gate.
Okay.
Instead of the north gate.
Okay. So it'll take a little bit of time for you to get back there. Meanwhile, back at the castle, let's see. As you back at the castle, back in the dance hall, the music begins to come to a close at the end of one of its loops, and everyone takes their bow as they finish one of the dances, and as everyone kind of stops, they all politely clap to each other and to the musicians. And Cassandra says, "Well, I must say, I feel that tonight has been full of surprises, don't you?"
I do tend to agree with that sentiment, yes.
And, yes. Well, I do thank you very much for the dance. I believe I should probably be getting back to my companions, as it were. They do so thrive on my conversation.
I don't doubt that.
Well, I bid
Thank you for accompanying me.
Oh.
And you, please, if there's any time we may assist the constabulary, please don't hesitate to call upon us.
From what I've been told, you have done a remarkable job already, but I will take you up on that offer whenever I get the opportunity. Have a good evening, Lord Renji Vox.
And you too, Ms. Sarborn.
And she turns and returns back to her seat, leaving you by yourself on the dance floor, at least briefly.
And I will...
I was going to say, what do you do now?
If like there's no one around me that's immediately Reggie will probably just like look around for a moment and then just slink off.
Okay. Where do you slink off to?
Maybe just like it's getting very late, I suppose. Want to see if there's anyone in the library still.
Okay. So you head off towards the library, and in the meantime, as you do, Ziden and Max, have you? It's been a fair while. It's been somewhere in the region of 5 or 10 more minutes. Have you left the garden at all, or are you still there? Do you intend to remain there for the rest of the evening until someone collects you?
I have no intention to leave.
Like, Max both wants to find the others and see what they want to do now, because like he doesn't know when this is going to end, and also he really wants to leave.
That's fair.
So I guess I will go look for Renji.
Okay.
Ziden will go with.
All right. So as you begin to make way and leave the garden, two of you specifically, because you're nearby, you hear a scream. It is a.
Yeah, what? I missed what you said.
A scream.
Oh.
Yeah. You hear a loud scream, presumably from a young woman, coming from another room in the castle, and then there is a loud rumble that comes from a different area of the castle.
So you said a scream and a rumble?
Yes.
Scream sounds more urgent.
The rumble.
Ziden will nod to Max and head towards the scream.
Okay. Renji, you hear the rumble. Judging from the direction, you might assume it's coming from, say, possibly some of the royal bedrooms, maybe even the king's study. What does Renji do with this information?
How close am I to my room?
You will be passing your room on the way to wherever it is you're going.
Then I just make a run for it, and as I head, I pass my room. I grab my rapier, my shield. Or actually, no, I don't grab my weapon.
Mm-hmm.
I do grab the rod of the Pact Keeper.
Okay, so you grab the rod of the Pact Keeper and you make your way down the corridors. So here's what happens.
So shield, rod of the Pact Keeper.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Hikan, you're too far away from the castle to hit any of this. But you get to the gate, and you see a couple of the guards there. One of them raises their hand and says, "Hold! What business do you have at Hyrule Castle, sir?"
Hello. Mr. Vox wanted me to deliver something to the Temple of Etheria, and he told me to come back. I we had a paladin of Etheria with us. I travel a lot with his son Renji.
Okay, make a persuasion check.
I'm flat lying.
Okay, make a deception check then.
15.
Okay. Let's see what the guard's insight is like. Not good. So he kind of narrows his eyes, but you provide like enough information for him to be like, right. Yeah, Thompson. And he's like, yeah. Escort this man to the car.
Does the name Thompson sound familiar? Because I know I will help beat up guards with Sho.
Thompson doesn't sound familiar, sadly.
Okay, fair enough.
But he goes, Thompson, escort this gentleman to the castle. Make sure he does not leave your sight. Have a look for a Renji Vox. And he says, oh, right, yeah, of course. Raise the portcullis. And the portcullis is raised. And Thompson escorts you up the path some ways. And
Thank you.
just as you're about halfway through, a signal light comes on from the castle, followed by another one and another one. And a horn sounds. And Thompson stops you on the path and says, oh boy. And just he says, you wouldn't happen to know anything about this, would you?
I don't know why they're throwing lights in the air.
Right. Meanwhile, in the past, we will do...
In the past?
In the past,
I
yes.
thought we moved back.
Because the signal lights happened later. So back with the others. Let's get some appropriate music going. This'll do. So back with the castle. We will do Ziden and Max first. You guys run through the corridors and you pass by one or two guards who are kind of wondering what's happening. They see you and go, "Oi! Do you stop?"
We're here to scream this way. Come on.
Okay. So they're like, right, and they follow you. So you now have two guards following you as you go through. You turn a corner, and the first thing that catches your eye, or the first thing that happens, is just before you turn the corner, everything feels very cold. And as you turn the corner, you see that the royal golds and reds that line this place, or that form the basic color palette, give way to a chilling white, and you notice that the entire corridor is covered in ice. As you appear around this corner, and you see down the end of this corridor, you see what appears to be a nice big door. And in this doorway, like, you don't need perception checks for this, because I feel like you could probably understand it on a metaphysical level. As you're getting close, you see a figure, and this figure has what appears to be the limp form of Princess Sophitia under one arm. And as you're kind of making like sprinting down this corridor to get to this room, there's a wall of ice that is beginning to rapidly form in front of the door. As the figure turns to look at you, I don't know whether or not Max might understand it on a kind of eerie level, but Ziden, you see Max's spitting image in like a white tooth cloak. His hair is gelled back, and there is a long scar that goes down his face from like just above his left eye, across his nose to below his right eye. And he kind of looks at you with this disinterested look, just as this image is hidden behind this suddenly appearing wall of ice.
So there's a wall of ice between us and him.
Yes.
Can I cast a spell?
You may attempt to.
I will cast Conjure Animals to summon two bears next.
Alright, so you summon two bears next to this guy.
Yes.
Okay, so you summon two bears next to the guy. You see them like appear, like out of like a burst of leaves and wind right next to him as your visual of the room closes.
And then he summoned a wall of ice.
Yeah. So the wall of ice was forming just as you cast a spell, and now there is a wall of ice between you and this room.
Well, my bears would have the order to subdue him. Because it looks like he's kidnapping a princess, and that's not a good. Assuming that, then I can still, I guess, take another action whilst bears are doing hidden things. I will cast Dispel Magic on the wall of ice.
Okay. It is an action, so there will be like effectively a turn that happens max. Did you want to do anything?
Well, is it an action? Because the what's-his-face used Dispel Magic as a reaction.
What's his face?
The bird wizard.
Oh, that was counterspell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Don't really have much useful. I could throw magic missiles at the ice wall. So I guess that's basically his first instinct to do.
Okay.
Break. 9 force damage on the ice wall.
Okay. So the missiles of force kind of batter into this wall, breaking away like chunks of ice from it. As the guards themselves kind of say, "What? Right. You around through that corridor around the outside. We can get through the window." And they're like, "Right." So they continue sprinting forward past you guys. Like they use the dash action to get further forward than you. You use. Then the next effective turn happens. Ziden used Dispel Magic. Let's see. For spell ability, higher on target, make an ability check using your spell casting ability. Okay. So make a. I say make a wisdom check, or make a wisdom check. Ziden.
This is just with wisdom. It doesn't go with proficiency, does it?
I believe it doesn't get proficiency. Although I could be entirely wrong.
Make an ability check using your spellcasting ability. So that would add proficiency because it does to spells. I thought.
Okay.
I think.
Although that would be for like spell. Well, let's assume yes for now, and I'll read up on it later.
Okay, so roll 1d20 plus 8. 25.
Okay. So as you cast a spell, there's a brief moment where the points where the magic missile hit just crack, 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 and then it just causes this wall to crumble before you. And you see this guy still there, and he's got these bears with him, though he's moved out of the way slightly. They're kind of battering. Well, I say moved out of the way slightly. They're battering at what appears to be this shield of force. So it looks like he's cast shield on himself. And then Max, you get a turn.
There's no like feathers around here, are there?
Make a perception check real quick. Because there might be like an ornament with a feather
22.
on it. 22. Okay. You look around. You see what appears to be an ornament that might have some feathers on it, but it's like encased in ice.
Damn it! I don't want to cast a spell. Instead, I'm just gonna rush this guy and punch him in the face with some lightning.
Okay.
Because I can't really do much critical thinking right now.
Nice.
Oh
But
dear
that
God.
is way too high on my spell attack. I just need to fix that number, but that was a crit.
3 plus 5 plus 6, yeah.
Yeah, that's 6
Yeah,
bonus.
I think I accidentally added my bonus from lightning spells to the
Okay.
to the wrong thing. So
That's fine.
so that should be a
Is
plus
it supposed to
4.
be bonus damage?
Yes.
Crit is
I
a
mean,
crit.
regardless, it's it's
So
still
that-
a net 20.
So those should actually add plus 5 to the damage.
Okay. So that
19.
is
24?
Yeah, so 24 lightning damage. As you kind of you
Just jump up and just haymaker to the face.
you throw a wild haymaker. There's a crack of lightning as your fist makes contact with this guy. So, he staggers back. I'm going to roll a thing to see if he drops Sophitia. He keeps hold of Sophitia with an 18, natural 18, and he staggers back, looks over, and on his turn he utters one word, which is sanctuary, and then he disappears with Sophitia. Meanwhile, in the other room, with Renji, you're running through the corridors yourself. You turn and you find that the door to the king's study seems to have been buckled open from the inside.
Okay. You said buckled open? Like
Yeah. As if something with a lot of force made contact with the closed door, and it's kind of like almost hanging off its hinges. The splintered wood.
Okay, the king's study.
Yes.
Okay. In that case, I have I ever been in the king's?
You know that it is a relatively small room. It's about 15 feet in diameter and is a rough hexagonal shape.
Okay, in that case, not going to use Misty Step. I am going to cast Blink on myself.
Okay. So you cast Blink on yourself. And I'm guessing, do you go round like into the? Do you look in, or do you appear like directly in the open doorway, or?
Oh, no, Blink is.
I mean, I know what Blink
does.
does, but it's like, how do you
Okay.
proceed forward towards this door?
I am going to try and see. I'm going to stay very close to the door, and then as I'm in the ethereal. No. I'm going to stay very close to the door, and try and look in as I cast Blink on myself.
Okay. From the doorway, you look in, you see a mess. There are books everywhere. There's furniture is overturned. In the doorway, you see mid action are the frozen forms of Zelish Maya and Nihilus Vox. Who, like, Nihilus is like in the middle of drawing a dagger. Zelish is in the middle of like possibly casting a spell with a somatic component. On the opposite side of the room, you see King Alexander Gregory Hyrule, like leaning against the overturned table as if it's been knocked over, and he's breathing heavily. He doesn't appear to have been stabbed or wounded in any case, but he's been pushed. And between you and him is a tall, lithe woman with flowing red hair, and she seems to be Hylian, but her features seem more pointed. Like, it's weird. It's almost fey-like. But she's holding in her left hand what appears to be a standard short sword, though it has kind of this really elegant leafy design. And you like peer around the corner and you hear just briefly, it's like, "Oh, King Alexander Gregory Hyrule, you have spent too long in this world, friend." What do you do?
As I see that, I still holding close to and trying to stay out of sight. I see Zelish and Nihilus frozen. What, like in frost for real, or like just?
They seem paralyzed on the spot. Like it's weird. It's like they're tableauing almost. Rather, there's no like frost that's disabled them. It's just kind of like they're just stuck there.
Then from beyond, just behind the door, I push and aim the rod of the Packkeeper and cast Eldritch Blast.
Okay. 27.
27 to hits for 10 force damage on the 2 bolts.
Okay. So you let loose with the attack. They make impacts into this woman's back. And she whips around and turns to see where the attack came from. And I'm guessing you'll probably she'll try and get say something, but before she does, you need to roll your thing.
I want to do a bonus action Hexblade's Curse on her.
Okay.
I keep forgetting to do that before I attack, because otherwise it would have been 13 points of damage. But as this happens, I will roll a d20. And that's 11.
Okay.
On a 11 or higher, I vanish from the prime material plane and I appear in the ethereal plane.
Okay, so you hit her with... And she turns to see just as you... And then on her turn, it's like, and it appears that my time has run short. And she points the sword at the king from where you can see in the ethereal plane. And for her action, she casts a spell that you know as Bestow Curse. Now, one of the interesting things about Bestowed Curse is that while it has hard-line things of what it can do, one of the other things is, say, a generic effect that could also fall in line with a curse. This one specifically, as she points and utters this hideous word, which you think you recognize the language that she uses, you see from the midst of the ethereal plane the King of Hyrule just suddenly begin to kind of convulse and somehow perceptively rapidly gets older, much older, by roughly 20 years. And as he's kind of like in this shock, the sudden and the king wasn't young to begin with, he was like in his 70s. So it like gets an additional 20 years on top of that. At least from what you're perceptive, he seems to go into shock immediately and then ceases to move. And this woman kind of heaves a sigh and says, I wish to save this so much longer, but I suppose it'll have to do. And that'll be her turn for the moment. She doesn't move.
Oh shit. Is it my turn again, or?
It is your turn again.
Okay. With that, I appear within the room.
Yep.
And I try and get as I move 10 feet towards her in the ethereal plane and then appear.
Yeah. So I'd say the room is 15 feet in diameter, so you'd be able to quite easily get within melee range from the door.
I want to try and get between her and the king.
Okay.
As best I can.
Okay.
And then I am going to use Toll the Dead.
Okay.
That is. Whew, that's not good.
Okay, so DC 16 Wisdom saving throw. 21.
Oof.
Let's see. So, what's your like somatic component with Toll the Dead?
Somatic. I would have my my shield out and just bang it against bang the rod against the shield.
Okay.
And it would only make a sound for her.
Okay. So as you appear, you bang, you hit the shield. The hideous roaring and screaming of the Twilight Hunters ringing through the air and in her ears. She kind of like leans back slightly and says, "Oh, that is a..." And she looks at you with this wild smile, and what she's going to do...
Do I recognize her?
You don't recognize the face, but you do kind of like, as you appear and are much closer to her, and as she revels in the sound that you have provided her, there is a bristling along your spine, like a chill. And as she kind of leans forward and looks at you with this wide smile, she's going to she's going to do something for flavor. So she's going to see if she can hit you with an attack, and then So essentially, what's going to happen is she's going to swing at you with a right hand, which, from what you can see, is empty. But something appears in it as she does so. Now, it doesn't do any damage, but does the 28 hit you?
Yes.
Okay, so she kind of like does a quick swoop, and instead of doing any damage, it leaves a cut along your cheek. And as you kind of look at the hand, and forming in it is a very familiar looking Twilight rapier. And she says to you, "Oh, little brother, we're going to have so much fun. Sanctuary." And as she says...
Yes. Before you...
Yeah?
if she says little brother, I do recognize the sword, and I say in the language of the Twilight, "I am no kin of yours." The irony.
Yeah, the irony. And she says sanctuary, and much like the other guy, she vanishes. And as the room is emptied, and Zelish and Nihilus are still paralyzed, and the body of the king lies still behind you, there is a voice that kind of re-enters your mind and... "Oh, it's so nice to see when my agents meet." And we will end the session for today. So...
We had a day.
You had a day. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I have been ArticulateT, the Game Master. Boy, do I know how to come back from a fucking hiatus. And with me today, I have Renji, Heir of Nihilus, being played by TheNetherlad.
Everything I know is wrong! Rudol Yankovic.
Playing Hikan Sio, I have Alvarance.
It's a good thing that I didn't need to be here, because I wouldn't have done anything anyway.
Playing Ziden Shari, I have RoboPirate.
They're gonna end up regretting this. We are the protagonists.
Yeah. And playing Max, I have Keastreth.
I just punched myself in the face.
Yeah. And we will see you guys on the next episode of Hyrule Chronicles D&D. Thank you very much for watching / listening. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye.